The 2000s were a golden era for cartoons, and you probably didn't even realize it. This was the decade that gave us weird, wacky, and way ahead of their time shows. Some were smart, some were chaotic, and some were just straight-up fever dreams. But they all had one thing in common. They left a mark. Welcome to Animated Memories, where we relive the tunes that shaped our childhoods. Today we're counting down our top 15 picks for the best cartoons of the 2000s.
I was in the hood. Thought I'd pop in.
Now here's a show that shocked us in more ways than one. Static Shock. First of all, Virgil Hawkins, a regular teenager from Dakota City, didn't just get superpowers, he got lightning powers. Think about it. He could literally control electricity, fly in a trash can lid, and zap bullies while dealing with normal teen stuff like homework and family drama. Static was smart, sarcastic, and relatable. He wasn't some rich kid in a fancy suit. He was just a kid from the block who found himself with powers he didn't ask for and had to figure out how to handle them. The show didn't just focus on him learning how to use his abilities, it also explored what it meant to be a hero, especially when you don't fit the typical superhero mold. Richie, Virgil's best friend, was his trusty sidekick, kind of like the tech genius behind the scenes and the guy who kept the vibe light when things got heavy. But what made Static Shock stand out? It wasn't just the superhero stuff. It was the way the show blended action with real-world issues. From social struggles to race to violence, it spoke to things we were experiencing at the time. And it did it in a way that wasn't preachy, but real. It had heart, but it also had that smooth, stylish animation that made it feel like a next-gen superhero show. Kind of like if you mixed Batman, the animated series, with a little more attitude and a fresh perspective.
The signature move has got to be who you are. Like it says in the code, you can't be a masked wrestler without a signature move.
Entering the ring with high-flying chaos and more masks than sense. Give it up for Mucha Lucha. Premiering in 2002, this was one of the first Flash animated shows on TV, and it was pure chaos in the best way. It followed Ricochet, Buena Girl, and The Flea, three students at the International School of Lucha. Ricochet, tiny, angry, and built like a Funko Pop with biceps. Buena Girl was the rulebook-obsessed friend who probably did extra credit on weekends and corrected the teacher while doing it. And then there's The Flea, a walking health code violation in a wrestling mask. Disgusting? Yes. Iconic? Also yes. Dude looked like he hadn't bathed since season 1, and we loved him for it. Now the whole show takes place at a school where kids learn lucha libre instead of math. Because why learn how to find X when you can learn pile drivers and headlocks as life skills? The theme was all about honor, family, and never taking off your mask, even if you had the flu, a cold, or the literal plague. It was wild, over the top, and had zero chill, and that was the magic. The show celebrated Mexican culture, friendship, and lucha libre tradition, something totally unique at the time. It had a distinct art style, a soundtrack full of bangers, and leaned fully into its weirdness. The Weekenders. Now, if Mucha Lucha was a chaotic flying elbow to the face, The Weekenders is the equivalent of throwing on some baggy jeans, grabbing a slice of pizza, and just vibing. This show dropped in 2000, and it was all about four friends, Tino, Carver, Lore, and Tish, navigating life one weekend at a time. Because apparently, weekdays didn't matter unless you were suffering through them to get to Friday. Tino was the main dude, sarcastic, pizza-loving, and always breaking the fourth wall like it owed him money. Carver wanted to be cool so badly. He made every trip to the mall feel like a life-or-death fashion crisis. Lore was the jock, super competitive, but low-key had a heart of gold under all that sports gear. And Tish? She was the artsy intellectual who probably read Russian literature for fun. Together, they were a squad that felt real, like you either were one of them or you knew someone just like them. What made The Weekenders so cool was how low-stakes but relatable it was. No aliens, no talking animals. Just weekend plans going hilariously wrong, and that somehow being the whole point. And yo, let's not skip over the details. The characters actually changed clothes every episode, a flex other cartoons still don't have the budget for. The animation was sleek, the writing was sharp, and the humor way smarter than we realized at the time. It was chill, it was funny, and it never overstayed its welcome, just like a perfect weekend. Got it.
Want to give this guy the sonic boom?
I got the Sonic if you got the boom.
Before the TikTok babies were watching Teen Titans Go and thinking it cooked, there was the real deal, the OG Titans. The ones with anime-style action, emotional arcs, and fight scenes that had no business going that hard on a Saturday morning. Teen Titans, 2003, was iconic. It gave us Robin at his peak. Brooding, acrobatic, and still not over his Batman issues. Starfire was the alien princess with the vocabulary of a Google Translate fail in the Heart of Gold. Cyborg? Tech genius, team chef, and walking boombox with booyah energy. Raven brought the goth girl rep before it was trendy, using dark magic and deep trauma like it was casual. And Beast Boy? A green chaos gremlin who shape-shifted, cracked jokes, and somehow made tofu sound like a personality trait. But here's the thing, Teen Titans wasn't just cool, it was emotional. It could be funny one minute and have you questioning life the next.
Well, Zim, I guess my first question is, are you an alien?
Lies! The filthy Earth Boy lies! I mean, no.
Let's talk about one of the weirdest and most gloriously messed up cartoons from the early 2000s, Invader Zim. This show was like a punch in the face with a side of dark humor and complete absurdity. It followed Zim, an alien from the Urkin Empire who is completely convinced that he's destined to conquer Earth and prove himself as the greatest invader of all time. But there's just one little problem. Zim is a total failure. Instead of sending him to a planet that actually matters, his superiors banish him to Earth as some kind of punishment. And naturally, Zim treats this trash job like a full-blown mission to conquer the galaxy. He's loud, he's obnoxious, and he's got zero chill. He's basically the worst invader ever, but somehow that's what makes him hilarious. Then there's GIR, Zim's malfunctioning robot sidekick. GIR is completely insane, dressed in a dog costume, and probably the least helpful robot ever. He's like if you gave an ADHD-infused toddler a bazooka and told them to do world domination. But here's the beauty of Invader Zim. It wasn't just absurd for the sake of absurdity. The humor was dark, twisted, and super sarcastic. This wasn't your average kid's cartoon with a fluffy moral at the end. Oh no, Zim had no friends. No allies, just a bizarre sense of superiority and a need to destroy humanity because, well, why not? Before the internet was filled with TikTok challenges and influencers doing backflips in their kitchen, we had Kim Possible, the high school girl who didn't just have a social life and good grades, she was also a secret agent saving the world before dinner. Kim Possible was everything. She was smart, she was tough, and, let's be real, she was the original girl boss before the term even existed. Not only was she saving the world from bizarre supervillains, but she was doing it while juggling homework, a team of awkward sidekicks, and dealing with her extremely overprotective parents. Who can relate? Her squad? Ron Stoppable, the lovable, totally unqualified sidekick with the world's worst pet, a naked mole rat named Rufus. Yet somehow he always pulled through, usually with zero skill but 100% heart. Rufus, naked mole rat, superhero, and the true MVP. Wade, the tech genius who was always in the van, never seen in person but somehow knew everything about everyone. Classic hacker move. And don't forget Dr. Draken and Shigo, the villain team that you kinda wanted to win, just because Shigo was so cool. Dr. Draken was the blue-faced evil genius with plans so dumb they actually worked, and Shigo? She was the kick-ass, sarcastic anti-hero we all secretly wanted to be. Kim's theme was simple. Teen girl living her best life while literally saving the world. Whether she was stopping mad scientists, fighting rogue robots, or battling a genetically engineered chicken, yes, that happened, she had the skills, the gadgets, and a catchphrase that would make any action hero proud. What's the sitch? And the best part? Kim Possible wasn't just about action. It was about friendship, loyalty, and balance. Kim wasn't just fighting bad guys. Yeah, she was figuring out who she was, what her limits were, and how to make her relationships work despite being a world-saving machine. All that while still managing to look effortlessly cool in her crop top and cargo pants. Iconic. Bottom line, Kim Possible proved that no matter how tough the mission, with friends by your side, you can do anything. And yeah, that includes being a teen superhero while maintaining a social life, something we could only dream of. Hey, if you're still watching at this point, first of all, respect. You clearly have great taste in cartoons. So while you're here, why not hit that subscribe button real quick? I mean, we're already 8 minutes into this nostalgia trip. We're basically best friends now.
We need some intelligence if we're gonna win this war.
Some shows are good, some shows are great. And then there's Avatar, The Last Airbender, the one that had no business being this deep, this emotional, this visually stunning, on Nickelodeon. Set in a world where people can control the elements through martial arts. The story follows Aang, a 12-year-old airbender, last of his kind, and the only person who can bring balance to the world is the Avatar. Small problem. He was frozen in an iceberg for 100 years while the Fire Nation went full imperialist mode. Oops, the squad? Elite, Katara, waterbender, mom friend, and the emotional anchor of the group. Sokka, no bending, all sarcasm, and somehow the most relatable one. Toph, Blind Earthbender, who invented metal bending and flexed every chance she got. And Zuko? Oh, Zuko. Prince of the Fire Nation, professional brooder, and owner of the greatest redemption arc in animation history. The show gave us epic battles, gut-punching backstories, and lore so rich it made other shows look like coloring books. But it also gave us jokes. Cabbage jokes, bison farts, Sokka being wrong 90% of the time and proud of it.
Oi, new recruits. I'd hate to meet the loser kid who imagined that guy. Now, as I was saying before, come on!
Now this one was special. Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends wasn't just a cartoon. It was a full-blown fever dream fueled by pure imagination. The premise is wild, but somehow makes total sense in cartoon logic. When kids grow out of their imaginary friends instead of disappearing, the friends go live in this giant mansion like it's summer camp for emotionally abandoned chaos goblins. Enter Mac, an 8-year-old with the kind of hair swoop every 2000s cartoon kid needed, and his imaginary friend Blue, a blue jelly bean with the ego of a rock star, and the decision-making skills of a toddler in a candy store. Blue was annoying, selfish, and chaotic evil, and we loved him for it. Then there's Wilt, the overly polite, super tall one who apologizes when you bump into him. Eduardo looked terrifying, but was basically a fluffy panic attack in horns. And Coco, we still don't know what she is. A bird? A plane? A vending machine? Doesn't matter, iconic. But what made the show work was how it balanced its loud, weird energy with real heart. It was about letting go, growing up, and realizing that imaginary friends might be made up, but the feelings? Totally real. The animation style? Chef's kiss. That bold, abstract look was instantly recognizable. Everything looked like it was drawn during recess with 4 broken crayons and a lot of imagination. And that's not a diss, that's the vibe. And somehow, Foster's pulled off something genius. It was a show for kids that got kids. It didn't dumb things down. It leaned into how weird and messy childhood really is and made it magical. Bottom line? Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends reminded us that just because you grow up doesn't mean you have to stop dreaming. Sometimes your best friend is just a blob with attitude and no boundaries, and that's okay. Let's be real, Danny Phantom was that show. Teenager, ghost powers, black and white hazmat drip, and a theme song that slapped so hard it's still echoing in our brains to this day. Danny Fenton was your regular, awkward high schooler, until he stepped into his parents' janky ghost portal, pressed one wrong button, and boom! His DNA got hit with a paranormal update. Now he's got ghost powers, glowing green eyes and the ability to turn invisible, phase through walls, and blast ecto energy like it's no big deal. And the best part? He didn't instantly turn into a flawless hero. Nah, he had no clue what he was doing, and that's what made him real. He had to juggle school, ghost hunting, keeping his secret from his clueless, ghost-obsessed parents, and still survive puberty. That's a lot for one kid. Honestly, give this man a break. His squad? Sam, goth, activist, and the real brains of the operation. Tucker, tech nerd with PDA energy before smartphones were even a thing. And of course, Jazz, Danny's big sister who was way too smart to not notice something was up. The villains? Straight fire. You had Skulker, the ghost bounty hunter, Ember, who turned ghost rock stars into a mood. And Vlad Plasmius, who was basically ghost dad gone evil. Like, man really said, I'm gonna steal your powers and your mom, and meant it.
Wow, it's better than a poster.
Gentlemen, this will be a night we shan't easily forget.
This show asked one very important question. What if your average elementary school kid could build a rocket ship before finishing his cereal? Jimmy Neutron was a boy genius, literal walking brain, with a head shaped like an ice cream swirl and ideas that should have gotten the whole town evacuated at least once a week. He had a lab hidden behind a bookshelf, a robotic dog that talked like your dad trying to sound cool, and inventions that always started with, "This is a great idea," and ended with, "Oh no, the sun is exploding." The squad? Carl Wheezer, allergic to everything, including common sense, and in love with llamas for reasons still unexplained. Sheen, loud, fast, ultra-lord-obsessed chaos energy who operated on one brain cell and vibes. Cindy, Jimmy's rival, frenemy, and probably the only one with real main character energy. Libby, cool, calm, and 100% over everyone's nonsense. The show's formula was simple. Jimmy builds something smart. It goes terribly wrong. Carl screams. Jimmy saves the day but somehow learns nothing. And we ate it up. Ben 10 was one of those cartoons that defined the 2000s. A kid finds a mysterious alien watch that lets him transform? Say less. That concept alone had us locked in. But what really made it special? That cross-country summer with Gwen and Grandpa Max. It wasn't just explosions and aliens, but it was family. road trips, and that weird alien of the week mystery that made every episode feel like a mini movie. Grandpa Max was the OG. Chill, wise, always 10 steps ahead. And Gwen? She was the smart one, always keeping Ben in check when he was acting up. It was the perfect trio. I remember twisting my wrist pretending I had the Omnitrix after I begged my mom nonstop to buy me one. That watch had me thinking I was about to save the planet before bedtime. Now? Cartoon Network turned it into a hyperactive mess. No depth, no tension, just cartoon sound effects and recycled punchlines. The original Ben 10 had heart. It felt like you were on that trip with them, fighting monsters, solving mysteries, learning something along the way. It wasn't just a cartoon. Ben 10 was a 2000s banger.
Any last requests?
Just one.
All right, let's talk about a show that had us all wishing we could transform into dragons on the regular. American Dragon, Jake Long. Jake Long was just your average teenager, living in New York City, trying to juggle school, family, and, secretly being a dragon. First off, Jake was cool, real cool. He had that classic teen swagger with a side of awkwardness, which made him relatable from the get-go. But here's the twist. He was the American Dragon, the protector of all magical creatures in the US, which is no small job. Oh, and he had a grandfather who was pretty much the definition of tough love, and a mom who didn't exactly know he was a dragon, yet somehow could totally tell when something was off. Now, let's talk powers. Jake didn't just breathe fire and grow claws. He could literally transform into a giant fire-breathing dragon. Who wouldn't want that, right? But, of course, it wasn't all about being the dragon. The show had this balance between Jake's personal struggles, like trying to impress his crush, Rose, and keeping his dragon secret, and the high-stakes action of fighting magical creatures like the Dark Dragon. We all know that villain was scary as heck. The show also had funny sidekicks like Trixie and Huntsgirl, who definitely helped bring some comedy into the mix. And let's not forget about Jake's transformation, not just physically, but emotionally. He was learning how to balance his responsibilities as the American Dragon and deal with everyday teenage life. What made this show stand out, though, was how it mixed action, family dynamics, and cultural heritage. It wasn't just about being a hero. It was about owning your identity, respecting your roots, and finding your own path, even when everyone around you doesn't fully understand it. Who didn't grow up wishing for a magical escape from homework, annoying siblings, or life's daily struggles? Well, Timmy Turner was that kid who actually got a magical escape. But oh boy, it came with some complications. Timmy wasn't exactly living the dream. His parents were clueless, his babysitter was a nightmare, and his best friend was a goldfish. But then came Cosmo and Wanda, his two fairy godparents who were ready to grant him wishes that could literally change his life. Cosmo was the fun, dim-witted fairy who would agree to anything, while Wanda, the sensible one, had to clean up the messes Cosmo and Timmy would leave behind. The show's charm was simple. Every wish Timmy made had consequences, and sometimes those consequences were hilarious, and sometimes they were downright chaotic. Timmy would make a wish to escape his problems only for the universe to flip it upside down, teaching him and us that even with magic, not everything works out the way you want. And we can't forget Vicky, Timmy's babysitter, who was the worst. She was the walking embodiment of childhood misery, a real-life villain who only made life harder for Timmy. Whether she was ruining his day or making his life a living nightmare, she was a constant reminder that even with fairy godparents, some people just can't be wished away.
Looks like Nigel Uno needs a date.
If you were a kid in the early 2000s and didn't want to join the K&D, were you even really a kid? Codename. Kids next door took the everyday struggles of childhood, bedtimes, homework, vegetables, and turned them into full-blown, high-stakes military missions. Like, why just complain about chores when you can launch a global operation with treehouse satellites and giant mechs? In the K&D, you weren't just a kid. You were part of an elite team. A soldier, a rebel. Nigel Uno, number 1, the bald-headed British commander who made leader sound like a battlefield rank. Hoagie Gilligan, number 2, the tech genius who proved a number could outsmart any adult. Kooky Sandbun, number 3, the living proof that chaos had a digit attached to it. Wallaby Beetles, number 4, the tiny hurricane who fought like his number was a warning label. Abigail Lincoln, number 5, the cool-headed strategist who made 5 sound unstoppable. The villains, absolutely unhinged. Evil dentists. deranged lunch ladies, a kid who literally weaponized homework. Grown-ups were the enemy, and the war was real. But here's what made the show genius. Underneath all the goofy gadgets and ridiculous acronyms, it actually understood what it felt like to be a kid. That feeling that adults don't get it. That rules are unfair, that your treehouse is your kingdom, and your best friends are your squad. And in that world, your name didn't define you. If there was ever a show that proved cartoons didn't have to play by any rules, it was the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy. Picture this. Two kids, one a sweet but totally dim-witted goofball named Billy, and the other a cynical, no-nonsense girl named Mandy, who somehow end up becoming friends with Grim, the literal Grim Reaper. How? Oh, you know, just a casual game of limbo that ended with them trapping him into a lifelong servitude. Just your average afternoon. Billy, with his childlike innocence and total lack of common sense, was always getting himself, and usually everyone around him, into trouble. Mandy, on the other hand, was the real star. She had a mind so sharp it could cut through anything, and she knew how to use Grimm's powers to her advantage. No one was going to outwit Mandy. She had a death grip on life, and if she needed to use the Grim Reaper as her personal errand boy, so be it. But let's not forget Grim himself. Imagine being the cosmic embodiment of death, cursed to follow around two bratty kids who constantly push the limits of your patience. That's Grim's life. Every single day. Sure, he had the scythe, the dark powers, and the intimidating look, but did any of that matter when he had to babysit Billy and Mandy's insane antics? No, it didn't. The show's humor was dark, twisted, and completely unapologetic. It wasn't shy about diving into the absurd, whether it was supernatural creatures getting into absurd scenarios, Billy's wild imagination running riot, or Mandy's dry wit being the perfect foil for everything around her. It was chaos, it was creepy, and it was a blast. The kind of show that didn't just make fun of the grim nature of death, it made death hilarious. The art style? Distinct. It was a blend of dark, gothic elements with a zany, slapstick cartoon vibe. Everything about the show, from the characters' exaggerated features to the twisted landscapes, felt like a wild fever dream come to life. It didn't just push boundaries, it stomped on them with a big, heavy boot. Bottom line? The grim adventures of Billy and Mandy was a celebration of the absurd, the dark, and the downright weird. It showed that cartoons didn't need to be safe to be fun, they just had to be ridiculous and embrace their weirdness. And who knew that a show about two kids and the Grim Reaper could turn into one of the most unapologetically funny animated series of its time? And there you have it, 15 cartoons from the 2000s that defined a generation. Some made us laugh, some made us think, and some just made us weird in the best possible way. Did your favorite make the list? Or did we leave out a hidden gem that deserves some love? Drop it in the comments. We're always down to revisit more animated classics. If this video brought back even one childhood memory, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe for more cartoon countdowns, and don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss a trip down memory lane. This has been Animated Memories.